Hey everyone, it's Joe Kral with the Society of St. Sebastian, and again, welcome to this week's edition of Pro Life University. We're going to do something new this week, something we haven't been able to talk about for a couple months at least now, and that is a state that actually has signed pro-life legislation into law. I want to congratulate Oklahoma for their recent signing into law. What they did is they had a bill just signed by their governor that enhances their already existing informed consent law. These laws are also called women's right to know laws. And just to kind of give a little brief background, typically when we have states that pass these pro-life informed consent laws or these pro-life women's right to know laws, there are certain requirements that are put upon the abortionist and the abortion clinic itself as well. One, they typically require that women be informed of the risks of abortion. They require fetal development information, especially in the vast majority of cases when it comes to these kinds of informed consent laws. They actually require, photographs, actual scientific photographs of the unborn child, of the developing unborn child throughout the various stages of pregnancy, and since from conception until birth. So women have an idea of the development of the unborn child. This was something that the U.S. Supreme Court deemed could be essential for a woman in informing her decision on whether or not she wanted to have an abortion. And so, since the early 90s, many states have been pushing for that. Now, obviously, we can talk about other enhancements to informed consent law, such as ultrasound bills, where women are given the actual ultrasound of their unborn child, and so forth. Now, obviously, one of the big goals that we hope to achieve with these type of laws is to give the women proper information and enough information that she's going to choose life, that she begins to understand that this child is not just a mere blob of cells. That, just because the father of the child says, well, I'm not going to do anything to support this child, well, that's in fact wrong. That she's given information about the state's requirements, that he does have to support the child, and so forth. And not to mention the various alternatives that are available, the risks that are associated with abortion, and so forth. And so, we as a pro-life movement have really pushed hard on many of these types of laws. Well, Oklahoma has done an incredible sort of thing here, and they've enhanced these sorts of things to where the abortionist can actually be held liable for failing to adhere to the proper informed consent standards, where she can actually sue them for more money and so forth. If he fails to find out if she's been coerced or not, one of the things that we do know, for example, there have been studies that indicate that roughly 65% of women feel pressured into having an abortion. Right? Now, what does that mean? Well, there's all sorts of things that are out there that simply say, look, your boyfriend's trying to say, I will leave you, I won't pay child support, or even just downright pressure. I will, you're living with me in my house. If you have this baby, I'll kick you out. Those sorts of things, all right? There's usually various sorts of pressures that women face when it comes to this abortion decision. So we know roughly 64% of the women that are out there that are getting these abortions are feeling some form of pressure to abort. So in some instances, we could say that there might be what we would call in ethics a moral impediment, right? Where there's forms of coercion going on with respect to this. And so it can affect her decision to where she may not be thinking straight because she may be acting out of fear, right? So again, this is an important sort of step. And in many ways, I think this is a great step because, again, one of the things that we need to understand when it comes to pro-life incremental laws such as this is that we're trying to show the society. One of the goals in incremental legislation, for example, is to help move society away from the acceptance of legalized abortion. That's the evil, right? So we want to move society away from the acceptance of legalized abortion. And again, the more information, right? It's just like that old NBC logo that everyone used to see, especially on Saturday mornings when they used to have Saturday morning cartoons. The more you know, right? And the simple fact is the more you know, right? Again, truth leads to a culture of life. And that's the goal with this sort of information giving these women, is to lead these women, if you will, towards a culture of life. Informed consent is just a basic medical ethics principle to begin with. The simple fact is that prior to any sort of medical procedure, the doctor has the ethical obligation, the moral duty to inform his patient of all the risks that are involved, what's going to happen, and so forth. And one of the things that we've certainly found out when it comes to, the industry, particularly the abortion industry, is that this abortion industry does not want to give women the truth. The simple fact is they like to hide the information, or they like to use euphemisms such as clump of cells and so forth. And just simply put, that is wrong, right? That's not giving women information. Why do they do this? Well, my suspicion is they do it primarily because they know if they say anything about the truth, that this is not a clump of cells, that this is indeed a unique human individual and so forth, that, yes, fathers do have the legal obligation to provide for their children and so forth. That just simply put, this sorts of information is just going to help her choose life. And so, the abortion industry is in the business of selling abortions. They're in this business of death. They don't want to give women that sort of information. And that's certainly my theory. There may be some other pro-life theories that are out there regarding that as well. But nonetheless, that seems to be the case with me, because the simple fact is for me, it gets into a whole ethical principle of vice versus virtue. Virtue leads towards truth. Vice does not. Vice leads in the opposite direction. And so in many respects, these people who operate on a vicious principle, that don't want to give the truth, that adhere to killing innocent human life and so forth, are not going to do anything to sit there and try to lead them towards the truth. And so I think that's an important sort of step here that we're taking. And again, one of the big main reasons for this goal is to get that information out there. And to really just kind of punch it forward, if you will, this idea that, look, you've got to tell the truth, and the truth literally leads to life. Now, I think this is an important sort of thing. Why? Because these abortionists now know that if they don't inform them properly, that if they don't find out if they've been coerced or not, they can be held liable. Right? These are important things. If a woman's feeling coerced, it's no longer about choice at that point in time. She's being pressured into something that she probably does not want to do. Right? More than likely that she does not want to do, and will come to regret later on. And again, there's so much evidence out there about women who regret having an abortion. Right? Many of them are out there saying, have suffered psychological trauma, have suffered physical trauma, and so forth because of their abortions. They wish that they had not done that sort of thing. So we've got to understand that, yes, they have an obligation. The abortionist has the obligation to find out if she's being coerced or not. And if he doesn't find out, then yes, he is responsible for the physical and psychological damage that she might suffer. So I think that's an important sort of aspect as well when it comes to this idea of informed consent, because she can't properly consent. That's the whole purpose of this. The operative word here is consent, obviously, and it's something that is properly needed. If she can't properly consent because she's being coerced, there is no real free consent that's happening here. And so again, I think it's important that we enact laws just like what Oklahoma's done. Now, a few other states have done similar sorts of things, and other states, of course, have been trying to pass similar legislation as well. But again, I just want to say hooray to Oklahoma for doing this sort of thing. Again, I think it's a wonderful thing. I think it enhances the law, right? It provides justice where there wasn't justice before, right? So, especially in these cases of coercion, where the law was absolutely silent and abortionists could get away without finding out if they've been coerced into this or not, now kind of puts a stop to that. Well, not just kind of, will put a stop to it. And I think Oklahoma is going to help lead the charge for other states, especially other pro-life states that are out there, to pass this kind of legislation. And I want to thank those folks and all those pro-life advocates in Oklahoma that have helped pass this much-needed incremental legislation. It will move us towards a culture of life. I think we will see a reduced abortion rate, and we'll see reduced abortion numbers in that state because of such legislation as well. Again, I hope you enjoyed this informative version of Pro-Life University. Again, if you can, give us a big thumbs up. We always appreciate it. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't yet. Please do so. And you know what? Get your friends to subscribe as well. We always want to try to draw more people in to get a little bit more knowledgeable about the pro-life public policy issues. And again, we appreciate you taking the time out of your day to learn just a little bit more. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Stay safe, everyone, and God bless. Bye-bye.